The story begins with Christine, the daughter of a marquis, stands with a stoic, guarded expression as she witnesses a scene of betrayal that has become all too familiar. In the background, her fiancé, the son of Count Philip, is openly cheating on her with another woman, a flagrant act occurring only half a year before they are scheduled to graduate from the academy. She observes this with a sense of resigned cynicism, noting that this behavior is merely a symptom of how miserable her country has become. A nearby noblewoman asks if this is really acceptable, to which another replies that it certainly is not, yet the prevailing social climate complicates the matter. The marquis daughter, identified as Christine, navigates a society where traditional values have been upended. The narrative context shifts to explain the societal shift. Political marriages, once the bedrock of noble alliances, are now considered outdated, while love marriages are the current obsession. This cultural revolution allows individuals to break off established engagements if they claim to have found their true love, a trend so powerful that even married couples divorce for its sake. Christine reflects on the origin of this upheaval, tracing it back 30 years to when the current king of the Slan kingdom discarded his queen to take a commoner woman as his bride, legitimizing the pursuit of passion over duty. This ideology has infiltrated Christine's own family. It has been 10 years since her parents arranged her engagement to Philip, but the family structure has since crumbled. 5 years prior, her mother abandoned the family after declaring she had found her fated love, raising the question of whether it is acceptable to neglect all other responsibilities for such a fleeting concept. Even her father, who suffered greatly from her mother's departure, has succumbed to the trend and now keeps a lover of his own, proving that these relationships are ubiquitous. Christine internally critiques the hypocrisy of the men in her life, noting that while Philip is not her type, his taste runs to women who are the complete opposite of her, those who chase after this so-called fated love. She harbors deep resentment toward both Philip and her father for leaving the engagement in a state of limbo while they pursue their own desires, deciding she can no longer forgive their negligence. She concludes that with the situation as it stands, their engagement was doomed from its inception. Determined to take control of her destiny, she vows to make them pay for their disrespect. Her destination is the city's top social venue, Night Lumière, an exclusive establishment with a strict dress code that only admits those of a certain status, where noble evening parties are held nightly. Christine arrives at the venue, her expression hardening with resolve as she plans to find a partner within these walls. She recalls instructing her maid, Sherry, to prepare an outfit that balances cute with grown-up, a request Sherry fulfilled, though she noted the boldness of Christine's plan. Standing in the opulent hall, Christine whispers a prayer to a higher power, seeking her own version of fated love to execute her scheme. She spots a solitary figure across the room, a man with striking silver hair and deep blue eyes, raising a glass. Christine is momentarily stunned by his beauty, thinking him a beautiful man, but quickly reprimands herself, realizing that getting flustered by a stranger will hinder her goal. The man notices her gaze and breaks the silence, noting that he caught her staring and surmising that she perhaps sees him as about 10 years her senior. He raises his glass, inviting her to a toast, and Christine, regaining her composure, returns the gesture. The alcohol takes effect quickly. After just one sip, Christine admits she is already tipsy and begins to pour out her grievances. She loudly complains about the awfulness of throwing away an existing partner for the sake of love supremacy, a sentiment the stranger listens to with a calm demeanor. She clarifies her intentions, stating she is not looking for a real relationship but for someone to pretend to be her lover. The man, analyzing her, deduces that she initially came hoping to find a love partner to secure a taste of her fiancé's fortune, but she corrects him, explaining she seeks a conspirator. She details her plan. She wants to give her father and fiancé a scare by claiming to have found her true love, thereby breaking the engagement, but she has no intention of falling in love for real. She laments that there is no punishment for those who betray political marriages in this country. The stranger asks if she dreams of love, to which Christine replies with a definitive not at all. She expresses exhaustion at being tossed around by the concepts of love and marriage. Her plan is to eventually tell her conspirator that it was a mistake and part ways, though she acknowledges the risk that her family might try to arrange another marriage immediately after. She resolves to deal with that complication later. Christine reflects on her conservative views, admitting that thinking of a change of heart as betrayal probably makes her old-fashioned. She reiterates her belief that falling for someone else and abandoning a spouse is betrayal, blaming the king's actions 30 years ago for glorifying love supremacy to justify his own infidelity. She asserts that marriage is supposed to be a contract of, let's stay together forever, not a fleeting emotion. The man smiles, impressed by her intellect, and identifies her as the daughter of the Besson Marquis family and the Academy's top student. Christine is startled, as she never mentioned her family name or the Academy. He explains that he has the information of all nobles memorized, a feat Christine finds amazing. He then introduces a counter-proposal. Instead of merely pretending, he suggests that an actual marriage would be more effective. He points out the irony of marrying someone she doesn't love to escape the pressure of love. Christine learns his name is Leon. She finds the idea interesting but deduces that since he is at this venue, he must be a noble as well. Christine hesitates, raising the concern that he might fall in love with someone else, stating that no one would agree to such a restrictive arrangement. She declares she does not want to live a married life in fear of abandonment and would rather stay single for life, believing she is unsuited for marriage. Leon then boldly asks, "Shall I marry you?" He clarifies that by marriage he means a complete contract, a fake marriage. In return for this arrangement, he promises she will have no social duties as a couple, they will have just the wedding, and then she will have her freedom. He addresses the logistics, noting they must live on the same estate to avoid suspicion, but offers her the guest house. Leon outlines the terms of their contract. They will stay honest with each other, meaning no divorcing because they fell in love with someone else, and no betraying the pact. He challenges her, asking if she thinks that is impossible for her. He adds a possessive caveat, stating that if she does fall for someone, it had better be him, but quickly amends this to say that if she falls in love with someone else, she must keep it from him. Flustered, Christine asks what is in it for him. Leon explains he is so busy he rarely returns home, so they would hardly see each other, and he too is tired of the love supremacy trend. He promises a comfortable life, framing it as a marriage of convenience disguised as a love marriage because they share the same views on love and marriage. Christine looks at his handsome face and surmises he must have an important job. She asks, "Why me?" noting that he could have anyone. Leon reveals a subtle social cue she missed. Ordering sherry at this establishment signifies, "Tonight, I'll give you everything," meaning Christine inadvertently made the first move. He reminds her that she was the one who asked for sherry. Christine is mortified, having not known the hidden meaning, but Leon dismisses it as a minor detail. He clarifies that honesty in this marriage means she can do as she likes, whether staying home or working outside. As long as it is not a romantic relationship, he will not interfere. They will gain the status of being married while staying as far from love as possible. Christine is intrigued by the permission to work, admitting she had given up on her dream but actually wanted to become a civil official. She recalls negative comments from others questioning the point of a woman studying or being top of the class when she is just going to get married. Leon affirms that if there is something she wants to do, she should do it, stating he doesn't mind. He provides his background. He has a small domain in the West, in Clanable, and is from the Bastille-Duke family line. He states his job is a civil official. Christine tries to pinpoint which house he is from, reasoning that Clanable is a grain-producing region where even a small domain brings stable income. She knows the Bastille family is famous for wealth down to its lowest branch, so she sees no reason to refuse. Leon proposes that the day before graduation, he will visit her family to ruin the marriage plans right before they happen, suggesting it would be fun. Christine agrees, finding the idea appealing. She formally accepts his proposal, asking him to take care of her. For the half year until graduation, they exchange letters, and Christine consults the noble directory to confirm Leon Bastille exists. During this time, she secretly takes the civil official exam without telling her family, using her mother's maiden name, Charlotte Muller, to avoid detection. She eventually receives an acceptance letter. The night before the graduation ceremony arrives. Christine stands before her father and Philip, announcing she is breaking off the engagement because she found her fated love. Her father is incredulous, demanding to know when this happened and dismissing the idea as impossible. He assumes the man is some worthless guy and demands Christine bring him there immediately. Christine, internally celebrating that everything is going just as planned, agrees to fetch him. She prepares to flirt with Leon and discuss breaking the engagement, treating it all as an act they discussed in their letters. Leon enters the room, and Christine greets him warmly, playing her part perfectly. She introduces him to her father and Philip. "This is my fiancé, Lord Leon. I'm marrying him." She revels in the acting, having looked forward to this day. Leon greets them politely, saying it is a pleasure to meet them again. Christine mentally congratulates herself on the shock she has caused, noting she wanted to see that look on their faces. However, the reaction is more extreme than she anticipated. Her father, the Marquis, drops to the floor in a panic, shouting, "Prime Minister, sir." Christine freezes, confused by her father's terrified prostration before her fake fiancé. It is then she realizes the truth. He never told her his real name. The narration reveals the man's true identity. Patrick Léon Bastille, appointed 3 years ago as the youngest ever prime minister at age 26. He is famous for exposing corruption and making ruthless, efficient personnel decisions, earning him the nickname Demon Chancellor. He is also known for sweeping reforms in welfare, public works, tax systems, and trade routes, making his competence legendary. Christine realizes he didn't lie technically. When he said he was a civil official, he meant he was the highest-ranking one in the country. When he said he was from the Bastille family line, he meant he was the Duke himself. And when he mentioned a small domain in Clanable, he was referring to the biggest domain in the country, which happens to be the Bastille family land. Even the name Leon was real, as the noble directory listed him as Patrick Léon Bastille, though she missed the middle name. She realizes she has been tricked. Christine tries to act calm but is visibly shaken. Leon, now revealed as Patrick, smiles and suggests that tricked sounds harsh. He asks her if she would have refused had she known his true identity. Christine thinks to herself that she wouldn't have minded, but the reality of the situation, marrying a duke, the prime minister, and the dreaded demon himself, is overwhelming. She realizes his marriage must be incredibly messy and annoying for him to resort to this. Leon claims he just forgot to mention the little detail of being prime minister. The scene shifts to the reaction of her family. Her father and Philip are paralyzed with fear and awe, realizing that if Christine's fated love is the prime minister, no one can object. The give them a shock plan worked perfectly, perhaps too well. Leon turns to Christine and asks if she will keep her promise. Christine, composing herself, confirms she will. They reaffirm that they are just entering a marriage contract for mutual benefit and that there is no such thing as fated love. However, the narrative jumps forward to reveal a future complication Christine did not foresee. 3 years after their contract marriage began, the husband she rarely saw and never expected to interact with deeply has become her direct superior at work. All she wanted was to free herself from love supremacy, never imagining this professional entanglement. The acceptance of the proposal. The very next day brings Christine's graduation ceremony, followed swiftly by the wedding day itself, blurring the timeline between her academic life and her new role as a duchess. As the events unfold, she formally breaks off her engagement with Philip and engages herself to Lord Leon. During the ceremony, Christine notices Philip glaring intensely at her and Leon. Her friend, Kalina, speculates that Philip might still have feelings for Christine, though Christine dismisses this, internally noting that it is customary to invite ex-fiancés but finding the situation a pain regardless. Christine maintains a stoic internal outlook, acknowledging that she and Philip never harbored romantic feelings for one another and feeling genuinely glad they broke it off. Kalina compliments Christine's gorgeous appearance and expresses her shock that Christine found her fated love in the Prime Minister. Kalina admits that seeing Christine happy puts her at ease, interpreting Philip's glare as mere jealousy that Christine married first. Christine accepts the praise but feels a pang of guilt, knowing she cannot reveal to anyone that this marriage is merely a contract. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifts as Leon approaches. Kalina identifies him as the ex-fiancé, but Christine corrects her, acknowledging him as Lord Leon. Leon, fully committed to the charade, whispers to Christine that they must act lovey-dovey to keep up appearances. He urges her to smile, while Christine internally groans, noting that he looks even more seductive today. She worries that his proximity means he might suspect something about their relationship, feeling overwhelmed by how close he is standing. Despite her internal confusion about the situation, Christine resigns herself to the role, deciding that if people are liking the spectacle, she will endure it. Bystanders comment on what a sweet, blushing bride she appears to be. The ceremony is massive, attended by royals, yet Christine finds relief in the fact that she only has to smile and hardly speak. Leon leans in, whispering that this public display is a big help and noting that now she won't have to deal with any extra hassle because he will handle everything for her. Demonstrating his possessiveness and authority, Leon interjects when a man attempts to greet Christine, declaring, "Christine is mine, so please don't speak to her." Christine, unused to being treated with such protective care, does not know how to react. The man Leon silences is revealed to be the crown prince, who attempts to introduce himself but is cut off by the prime minister's assertive blockade. This bold move cements Leon's reputation as a strategist. Rumors immediately begin to spread that the demon prime minister is head over heels for his wife. Following the ceremony, Leon explains the living arrangements. He tells Christine that she is free to go to the main estate or move in there if she prefers, instructing her to tell the butler if she needs anything. He indicates the East Wing, stating this is where she will live from now on. He clarifies that he will mostly be at the royal palace, so they likely won't see each other much. Christine acknowledges this with an understood. Before departing, Leon leans in intimately, citing a pile of work and wedding prep as his excuse to return to duties. He leaves her with a mandate: from now on, live freely and have fun. Christine is left flustered, questioning if even a nominal marriage typically includes such a high level of physical contact. Christine settles into her new life. She explains that she was given a separate residence within the Bastille Duke's estate, though it connects to the main house by a corridor. This residence is located very close to the capital, only about 40 minutes by carriage to the royal city. She notes that Leon owns other small domains in addition to this massive estate. Regarding family dynamics, the former Duke and Duchess passed away in an accident 5 years ago, relieving Christine of any social obligations to in-laws. Leon maintains a room at the palace where he works and rarely returns home. Thus, their perfectly separated, same estate married life begins. 1 year passes. The scene shifts to the Ministry of Finance, Department 9. A colleague calls out to Muller, asking if she finished revising the Kammerer Bridge budget. Christine, disguised in glasses and using the alias Charlotte Muller, confirms she finished it yesterday and is now working on the Q&A set. Another colleague questions a statistic, which Christine promptly explains was calculated from the last 5 years' statistics, complete with annotations and sources. She reflects that Department 9 is not a glamorous spot within the ministry, it is more on the edge, but it is just right for someone like her. Christine explains her disguise. Because she married the Prime Minister in a huge public wedding, she feared someone might recognize her face. Consequently, she uses her middle name and her mother's maiden name, an alias she has used since her entrance exams. While her legal surname is Bastille, she functions professionally as Charlotte Muller. To maintain the ruse, she wears subtle makeup to appear plain, messes up her hair, and wears thick fake glasses. Thanks to these efforts, nobody recognizes her, and she has firmly established herself as that plain girl. Christine finds the work busy and fulfilling. She feels she must protect this lifestyle, as she has been freed from romance-obsessed ideals and believes this might be the happiest she has ever been. As for her husband, Leon, she notes they haven't met at all since the wedding, meaning that intimate moment a year ago was truly the last time they saw each other. At the office, gossip circulates about the Prime Minister. Colleagues discuss hearing His Excellency praising his wife in front of His Majesty. They marvel that the demon Prime Minister is so obsessed with his wife that words fail them. The rumors claim that even though he is too busy to go home, he says her smile when he does return is the best, and he cannot get enough of how she hugs him upon his return. Christine listens to this with a deadpan expression, acknowledging that the fake marriage and fake affection show are going smoothly. While receiving a massage at home, she internally scoffs at the lies he is spewing with a straight face, noting that those romantic interactions never happened. In reality, she is usually so exhausted that she falls asleep the second she gets home, so she wouldn't even know if he returned. She doubts he comes home at all, assuming it would be past midnight if he did. She sympathizes with his workload, thinking that if her minor department is this hectic, the Prime Minister's workload must be unimaginable. The narrative reveals the truth of the domestic situation. Christine falls asleep instantly during her massage, thanking the staff for their work before losing consciousness. One random day, Leon actually returns home. The butler greets him, noting it has been a month since his last return. Leon asks if everything has been all right and inquires about Christine. The butler hesitates, leading Leon to the bedroom where Christine is sound asleep. Leon observes that she seems very exhausted. The butler suggests waking her up to talk normally, but Leon refuses, questioning the point of waking her at such an hour just to make her worry about pointless things. He assumes she is enjoying her work. Leon watches her sleep, noting she is still the same as ever. On another occasion, she falls asleep in the bath, and Leon is there to whisper, "Welcome home," to her unconscious form. Leon admits internally that he didn't expect they would see each other this little. He had hoped to slowly grow closer to her, but his inability to come home early, combined with her fatigue, makes it impossible. It becomes a routine for Leon to quietly look at her for 5 minutes before leaving her room. As he watches her drool in her sleep, he wonders if she is half asleep. His thoughts drift to his professional life, noting that the new recruit Muller is very capable, creating an ironic juxtaposition as he stands over his disguised wife. He bids her good night and leaves. For the past year, Leon has quietly visited several times, but Christine remains completely unaware of this. 6 months later, marking 1.5 years since Christine started working as a civil servant, a significant change occurs. Christine feels rewarded as her abilities are recognized, despite the hectic nature of the work. A colleague informs Muller that she has received another transfer order. Christine is confused as she just transferred recently. The order transfers her from Department 9 to the elite Department 1 of the Ministry of Finance. Her colleagues react with shock and jealousy, noting that only the top elite of the civil service are placed there. They reveal the destination, the Prime Minister's assistant office. The realization strikes Christine hard. She is being transferred to work directly for her husband, Lord Leon, whom she believes she hasn't seen in 2.5 years. The narration corrects her assumption with a caption, "They have met." Her colleague's reaction shifts from jealousy to pity. One tells her to, "Please come back alive," while another offers condolences and promises to collect her remains if anything happens. Christine is horrified to learn that this elite office is colloquially known as the graveyard. She stands frozen, processing the fact that her carefully separated life is about to collide in the most disastrous way possible. Charlotte Muller navigates the corridors of the Prime Minister's assistant office, a division grimly referred to by its denizens as the graveyard. Despite the morbid nickname, her transfer here was not a punishment but a recognition of her unrecognized abilities as an assistant. She convinces herself that the transfer holds no personal risk, reasoning that her husband, Prime Minister Leon, will fail to notice her presence given that they have not seen one another in 2.5 years. Her colleagues in Division 1 offer her grave condolences rather than congratulations, telling her they will collect her bones and urging her to simply come back alive. Charlotte recalls her initial assignment to this elite corps with a sense of fiery gratitude, a sentiment that the crushing reality of the workload has long since extinguished. The atmosphere inside the office resembles a battlefield of bureaucracy, dominated by the relentless clatter of calculating tools and the shouting of orders. A senior official commands Muller to finish a task within 30 minutes, while another piles on additional totals to verify, demanding completion within an hour. The pressure is absolute, mistakes are fatal, and submitting an incorrect document to the Prime Minister is equated to professional death. The seniors enforce a brutal regimen where the word impossible is forbidden and stopping one's hands is synonymous with dying. By evening, the staff staggers through the halls, dark circles carved deep under their eyes, while Charlotte admits internally that she feels no gratitude whatsoever for this elite placement. Survival in the assistant office demands the abandonment of all etiquette. Charlotte devours a wrapped meal sent by the Duke's chef with one hand while her other hand continues to work, a practice that has become the standard for efficiency in this insane environment. Despite the physical toll, she finds a paradoxical sense of life in the civil service, where rank and lineage dissolve in the face of raw competence. She derives genuine satisfaction from being a nameless, functional cog in the machine, unbeknownst to her colleagues who have no idea she is actually the Duchess. She benefits from a convenient rumor that the Prime Minister is so obsessed with his wife that he forbids her from leaving the house, a misunderstanding that covers her long hours at the office where she technically lives as a social disgrace. 6 months into her tenure, Charlotte has transformed into a human database for the department, with colleagues treating her like a handy reference book. One coworker demands she recall details about a landslide in the Leaf region from 5 years ago, while another asks for fisheries data for the Hero Coast. She answers them instantly, directing them to specific shelves without pausing. Just as she calculates a rare chance to leave before midnight, Section Chief Irene intercepts her with an urgent approval request. Irene, a charismatic and attractive woman who firmly rejects marriage, relies on Charlotte's efficiency and dispatches her to retrieve a master file directly from the Prime Minister's office. Irene advises Charlotte to simply ask him to lend it, assuring her he will hand it over. Charlotte stands before the intimidating double doors of the Prime Minister's room, her heart racing as she prepares to meet her husband for the first time in his official capacity. She anxiously adjusts her mindset, convinced that 3 years of separation ensures he will not remember her face. After knocking, She announces herself as Charlotte Muller from the assistant office and enters upon hearing his permission. The room is a chaotic archive of paperwork, and Leon sits amidst the clutter, wearing glasses that Charlotte finds unexpectedly attractive. Leon appears physically drained, his voice sounding thin and exhausted as he acknowledges her presence. Charlotte observes his state and deduces that his schedule leaves absolutely no time for a married life, realizing he is even busier than the staff in the graveyard. She presents the financial reports for the Conrad district, but the transaction halts when Leon begins searching for a missing file buried under the mess on his desk. He asks for her assistance, and as she crouches to search, he absently pats her head. Charlotte freezes, bewildered by the gentle gesture from a man rumored to be a demon, and briefly wonders if he is actually a womanizer. The rhythmic patting ceases, and Charlotte looks up to find that Leon has fallen asleep, his head slumped forward on his arm. She spots recovery potions and drowsiness suppressants cluttering his desk, confirming that he is working himself to the brink of death. Her gaze drifts to the empty desk nearby, the seat of the designated assistant, which has remained vacant for a long time. Moved by his vulnerability, she gently covers him with a coat found nearby and places a small, wrapped candy on his desk as a meager offering of nutrition. She whispers a soft affirmation of his hard work before quietly slipping out of the room. The following morning, the atmosphere in the assistant office lightens with the successful retrieval of the file. Co-workers discuss the Prime Minister's crazy aura that typically freezes staff into incompetence, but Irene dismisses the intimidation, having once been his mentor. Irene speculates that perhaps Leon is gentler with women, a comment that causes Charlotte to internally panic about the head-patting incident she failed to report. Suddenly, Irene pivots and suggests that Charlotte should take the vacant position of the Prime Minister's designated assistant. Charlotte recoils at the suggestion, terrified by the prospect of working so closely with him and certain she cannot maintain such a professional facade. Seeking refuge from the stress, Charlotte spends her day off at the library, only to witness a dramatic scene unfolding between a man, a noblewoman, and a commoner girl. The man denounces his fiancée in favor of true love, a tableau that mirrors the plot of a wildly popular stage play titled The Black Prince and the Golden Maiden. The play idealizes a romance that bypasses social standing and demonizes the noble fiancé, fueling a national obsession with romantic destiny that Charlotte finds detestable. She watches with disdain as the public embraces this fiction, knowing the reality often leaves the abandoned fiancé isolated and misunderstood. Returning to the office after her frustrating holiday, Charlotte attempts to walk past the Prime Minister in the hallway, offering a brief greeting. Leon stops her, pointing out that her post is not in the direction she is heading. He steps closer, looming over her with a knowing smile, and reveals that Irene has recommended her for a new position. Before Charlotte can process the implication, Leon declares that starting today, he is counting on her as his designated assistant. Charlotte stands paralyzed, her eyes wide behind her glasses, as her carefully constructed anonymity collapses under the direct order of her husband. Charlotte Muller stands poised in the Prime Minister's office, the freshly bestowed AIDE's armband gleaming on her sleeve as proof of her new, elevated status. Just one day prior, she received the appointment to serve as the dedicated aide to the Prime Minister's office, a role she accepted under the assumption that she would merely observe the workflow initially. However, the reality of the position strikes immediately as Prime Minister Leon rejects a submitted estimate without a glance, commanding the unfortunate subordinate to resubmit the document immediately while simultaneously securing the necessary materials. Charlotte observes the ruthless efficiency of her husband, noting with a mix of awe and trepidation that there is no predecessor to facilitate a handover. She must learn by immersion in the fire. The following day, Charlotte busies herself at her desk, which features a holy tool warming pot, a high-end luxury item powered by rare holy stones typically used for lighting and heating. She reflects on her observations from the previous day, primarily noting that Leon drank the coffee she brewed despite the degradation in taste caused by the warming pot, a compromise he accepts simply to save the time it would take to brew a fresh cup. Her internal monologue shifts to a more personal grievance. Leon has completely failed to realize that his new, efficient aide is actually his wife. Leon interrupts her thoughts with a curt morning greeting, instructing her to handle the document intake task immediately, emphasizing that they cannot pass error-riddled paperwork to His Excellency. Charlotte's second observation regarding the office workflow manifests when a desperate official begs for an urgent approval. Leon is unavailable due to a meeting, but Charlotte intercepts the man, advising him that without a clear estimated damage cost, his request faces immediate rejection. She deftly navigates the bureaucracy, offering to write a referral letter to Section 3 of the Finance Department to assist him, a move that earns his profound gratitude and validates her placement in this high-pressure environment. Later, another official attempts to bypass protocol by presenting a box of sweets directly to the Prime Minister. Charlotte, adhering strictly to her instructions, attempts to decline the food item, but the man insists. Her instincts flare as she examines the box, discovering a letter concealed beneath the confectionery. She confronts the official, exposing the bribe, which triggers a terrifying reaction from Leon, who has evidently been watching. He looms over the scene, his reputation as a demon fully on display, and notes that an attempt to bribe him results in detention and a fine. Charlotte watches the official quail under Leon's gaze, realizing that this uncompromising stance against corruption is the source of her husband's fearsome moniker. 1 month into her tenure, Charlotte has adapted to the grueling pace, reducing her lunch breaks to efficiently consuming food with one hand while continuing to work. This habit draws Leon's intense scrutiny, causing her to flush with embarrassment and demand he stop staring. Leon, observing her meal, asks if she made it, to which she truthfully replies that her family's chef prepared it. In a sudden shift from professional to personal, Leon commands her to close her eyes and open her mouth, declaring he will give her something nice. He feeds her a sweet directly, an intimate act that leaves Charlotte mortified, though Leon justifies it as a necessary test for a dedicated aide who must possess a refined palate to identify foreign substances in his food. He challenges her to identify the ingredients, and Charlotte tentatively guesses strawberry extract, sugar, and flour based on the light, crispy texture. Leon corrects her, revealing it is a meringue cookie made with egg rather than flour, a trend from a neighboring country. He hands her the rest of the sweets and abruptly pivots back to work, informing her she will attend the Royal Council meetings starting the next week. Charlotte is left clutching the bag of cookies, bewildered by the sudden intimacy and wondering if he gets this close with every woman. The day of the Royal Council arrives, and Charlotte stands alone in the hallway, clutching urgent documents. Her solitude is interrupted by Tonio Besco from Finance Department Section 1, a man she instinctively dislikes. Tonio, known for his handsome face and casual demeanor, carries a scandalous reputation involving a divorce and immediate remarriage to a mistress. He approaches Charlotte with unwanted familiarity, questioning why she wears non-prescription glasses and inviting her to a party in his section. Charlotte rejects the invitation coldly, citing a lack of time, but Tonio persists, invading her personal space and reaching out to touch her glasses without permission. Charlotte recoils, internally cursing him to suffer a bird-related mishap, while outwardly demanding he leave as she has finished checking his documents. Tonio ignores her dismissal, taunting her for being cold and suggesting she might be hot, without the glasses, attempting to forcibly remove them. Before his hand can make contact, Prime Minister Patrick materializes behind him, radiating a dark, oppressive aura that Tonio immediately recognizes as anger. Leon confronts the subordinate, his voice dripping with disdain as he dissects Tonio's personal life, noting the mathematical impossibility of his new wife's pregnancy timeline relative to his divorce 6 months prior. Leon continues his verbal evisceration, pointing out that Tonio's evaluations have been plummeting annually and threatening him with a demotion to a countryside post suited for child-rearing if they drop any further. Tonio, terrified by the accuracy of the Prime Minister's knowledge, confirming rumors that Leon memorizes the data of all nobles, scrambles to apologize and flees the scene. Charlotte observes the encounter, confirming that the rumors of his scary smile are entirely founded. With the pest removed, Leon turns his attention to Charlotte, commanding her to approach him. Charlotte braces herself, fearing he believes she was slacking off, but instead he demands her right hand. He proceeds to wipe her hand vigorously with a handkerchief, erasing the memory of Tonio's touch. He instructs her that in such situations, she is permitted to punch the offender and he will overlook it. Charlotte stammers that she can clean her own glasses, but Leon insists, admonishing her for not rejecting Tonio sooner and allowing him to touch her. As the tension dissipates, Leon cleans her glasses and returns them, remarking with a genuine smile that she really does look better with them. Charlotte accepts the compliment with a quiet affirmation, but internally, a deep wave of melancholy crashes over her. She realizes that Leon has truly and completely forgotten his wife, Christine, treating Charlotte Muller as an entirely new entity. The pain of this erasure stings more than she expected, confirming that their marriage agreement truly included zero personal interaction to the point of total amnesia on his part. They arrive at the Royal Council, a massive gathering involving heads of ministries and royals to discuss national construction plans and foreign policy. Leon issues strict instructions to Charlotte. She must stay at least 3 steps close to him at all times and must not put anything in her mouth unless he gives it to her directly. The meeting commences, largely dominated by civil officials exchanging opinions while the royals remain passive, with one seemingly asleep. During a short recess, colleagues praise Charlotte's excellence, though Eric from the finance ministry attempts to claim credit for training her, which Chief Eileen swiftly corrects. The recess takes a chaotic turn with the arrival of the second prince, Arnaud. Known for his eccentricity, the prince moves with blinding speed, suddenly appearing before Leon and Charlotte. He demands an introduction, and Leon instructs Muller to greet him, reverting to her surname in the presence of others. Charlotte introduces herself formally as the newly appointed dedicated aide. Prince Arnaud, finding her amusing, immediately asks Leon if he can take her as his own aide. Leon flatly refuses, citing his authority over civil official personnel and stating that transferring her without his permission is impossible. Arnaud threatens to take her by force, but Leon stands his ground as the recess ends. Before returning to the session, Leon signals Charlotte to follow him to the break room. Once they are secluded, Charlotte attempts to ask about the tense interaction with the prince, but Leon abruptly pulls her into his arms. He explains that Arnaud is loud, and his presence carries, necessitating a physical proximity to communicate privately. However, the tension breaks when Charlotte recalls Prince Arnaud's bizarre hand movements during his cool pose and erupts into uncontrollable laughter. She tries to stifle the sound, apologizing between gasps, but the image of the prince's pose strikes her funny bones so hard she fears she might laugh herself to death. Leon watches her, initially amused, telling her to think of budget numbers to calm down, but Charlotte finds it useless. Deciding that drastic measures are required to restore her composure before they return to the solemn council meeting, Leon declares he has no choice. He steps in close and silences her laughter by pressing his lips to hers in a sudden, decisive kiss. He pulls back, confirming that she has stopped laughing, and immediately orders her to double-time it back to the meeting. Charlotte, mind completely blank, follows him, somehow managing to take proper minutes despite her internal chaos. As she watches Leon's back, the reality of the situation settles in. That was a kiss. But because Leon doesn't know she is Christine, his wife, she is left with a spiraling, complicated question. Does this mean he is cheating, or does it mean something else entirely for the woman named Charlotte? Charlotte Muller sits submerged in a bath, her mind reeling from the sudden, unexpected intimacy shared with Lord Leon. She attempts to rationalize the kiss that occurred moments prior, convincing herself that it was a necessary, life-saving measure to stop a fit of hysterical laughter that threatened to kill her. Despite the chaos in her thoughts, she finds herself distracted by the physical perfection of her husband, noting that his skin remains flawless and his appearance handsome despite the sleep deprivation caused by his chronic overwork. She splashes water on her face, trying to scrub away the confusion, but a new anxiety takes root, the question of fidelity. Charlotte grapples with a complex identity crisis, wondering if the kiss counts as cheating since Lord Leon does not realize that she, his dedicated aide Charlotte, is actually his wife, Christine. She recalls his vow never to betray her, yet remembers that in their formal capacity as husband and wife, he has only ever kissed her on the cheek. A wave of paradoxical jealousy washes over her. She envies her own alter ego, realizing that Leon is far closer to Charlotte, the aide, than he ever was to Christine, the contract bride whose face he seemingly cannot remember. She attempts to soothe her conscience by theorizing that in this country, a place where love is paramount, a simple kiss might be considered a mere greeting rather than an act of infidelity. Ultimately, she categorizes the event as emergency aid and skin contact to force herself into sleep, fearing that insomnia will impact her work performance. The following morning, the atmosphere in the Chancellor's office is thick with unresolved tension as Leon greets Charlotte. He immediately addresses the previous day's incident, apologizing for acting without her consent while in a rush. Charlotte hurriedly dismisses the need for an apology, insisting that she was the one who caused trouble and reaffirming that his action was a life-saving necessity to stop her laughter. Attempting to normalize the situation and alleviate his guilt, she claims that such interactions are no big deal and implies that kisses are a common occurrence for her. This fabrication instantly shifts Leon's demeanor. His expression darkens, and he questions if she would go that far with just anyone. Caught in her lie, Charlotte stammers a confirmation, unable to walk back her statement. Leon, adopting a terrifyingly possessive tone, declares that if such intimacy is common for her, then they will implement a new rule. He commands that whenever they are alone in a room, they must hug upon leaving. He justifies this mandate by referencing scientific studies which claim that hugging boosts immunity and reduces stress and anxiety, arguing that refusing such benefits would be illogical. Charlotte attempts to negotiate, stammering that she is unsure about the science, but Leon presses the advantage, asking if his touch disgusts her. When she denies this, he points out that he hugged her the previous day to calm her down, and she admits that she felt strangely healed by the contact. Leon capitalizes on this admission, suggesting that regular hugs would aid recovery. He then escalates the negotiation, teasingly asking if they should add kisses to the hugs since she claimed they were so common for her. Panicked, Charlotte vehemently rejects the addition, pleading for hugs only. Leon accepts this compromise but demands immediate practice, ordering her to approach him. As Charlotte steps into his embrace, she mentally laments the difficulty of her situation, realizing she is being maneuvered effortlessly by him. Leon holds her close, whispering threats to add kisses if she does not perform the hug properly, teasing her until she nearly panics at the overwhelming, uncontrolled sexiness he exudes. When they finally separate, Leon praises her performance and asks how she feels. Charlotte admits to feeling safe and refreshed, leading Leon to finalize the rule. They will hug every time, naturally, but only when no one else is around. The reality of Leon's protective nature, and the danger of crossing him, becomes brutally apparent to the rest of the staff. News reaches the office regarding Tonio, the senior official who had previously touched Charlotte's glasses and invaded her personal space. He has been summarily shipped off to a remote island, effectively exiled. Colleagues whisper that he got on the Chancellor's bad side, and Charlotte realizes with a chill that Leon knows everything that happens within his domain. While she wishes Tonio happiness with his new family, she accepts that his punishment serves as a grim warning to others. Empowered by her position and perhaps hardened by the environment, Charlotte confronts a subordinate regarding the quality of his work. The official attempts to brush off his errors, asking her to fix a few on her end, but Charlotte coldly refuses. She critiques his paperwork, noting that the number of errors has increased since she began catching his mistakes, and asks if this is the level of work he finds acceptable. She threatens to submit his error-riddled documents directly to His Excellency without her corrections, a threat that terrifies the subordinate into promising to triple-check his work henceforth. Later, the atmosphere in the office relaxes as Charlotte engages in small talk with Mr. Jack regarding the Commerce Bridge construction schedule. The conversation shifts to the latest rumors concerning the cancellation of the popular play, The Black Prince and the Golden Maiden, which glorifies the romance of the current king and queen. The play, a cultural cornerstone representing love above all, is being pulled from theaters across the regions and potentially the capital, puzzling the populace. A colleague whispers the scandalous reason behind the cancellation. Rumors suggest their majesties have been on bad terms for a long time, and the queen may even have a lover, pointing toward an impending divorce. Charlotte and her colleague agree that spreading such rumors borders on lèse-majesté and decide to keep it between them. Charlotte internally reflects on the irony. The royals, as the founders of the country's romance-obsessed ideology, are trapped by their own narrative. They cannot simply apologize and switch partners like commoners. They must maintain the facade of an unshakable, fated love. As Charlotte walks through the palace corridors, she encounters second Prince Arnaud, identifiable by the royal typical black hair. The prince makes a dramatic, theatrical entrance, spinning around in the hallway as if it were a ballroom, a sight that threatens to send Charlotte into another fit of laughter. Arnaud stops abruptly and addresses her, recognizing her as the Chancellor's dedicated aide. Arnaud approaches Charlotte, commanding her to raise her face. He stares intently at her, claiming that his eyes cannot be fooled. In a moment of terrifying clarity, he asks if she is Chancellor Patrick's wife. Charlotte attempts to feign ignorance, but Arnaud reveals his specific talent. He can memorize a woman's face in an instant. He connects the plain, bespectacled aide standing before him with the dressed-up duchess he saw at the wedding. He reaches out and touches her glasses, prompting a defensive reaction from Charlotte, who fears that if Leon finds out about this interaction, he might exile the prince to an island just as he did Tonio. Arnaud questions why a duchess would disguise herself as a civil servant. He teases her, suggesting he might make her his own aide, but acknowledges the awkwardness of working in the same office as her husband. Realizing he has uncovered a secret kept even from the Chancellor, Arnaud's demeanor shifts to one of amusement rather than malice. He declares himself a man who keeps secrets and bids her farewell, citing a rendezvous with his beloved Aisha as his priority. Charlotte is left relieved, assessing that the prince does not seem to be a bad person despite his eccentricity. Alone again, Charlotte reflects on the origins of her deception. She recalls that she used her middle name and her mother's maiden name on her acceptance letter to prevent her father from blocking her civil service exam. She never expected to maintain the disguise for this long, having benefited from Lord Leon's reforms that removed the requirement to disclose titles. As she clutches her bag, a wave of melancholy hits her. She worries that if Leon discovers Charlotte is actually his wife, the easy, comfortable intimacy they have built, the hugs, the banter, the shared work, will vanish, replaced by the stiff formality of their marriage. She realizes that she enjoys his company too much to let that happen, wondering if such a The story begins with the sun filtering through the ornate glass windows of the palace, casting long shadows across the balcony where whispers of a strange rumor begin to circulate. A conversation drifts through the air, centering on the mysterious occurrences within Conference Room 3. Gossip suggests that something unearthly appears there, a spectral presence that haunts the hallowed halls of the administration building. On the balcony, Leon, a man of striking elegance and sharp features, leans back with an air of casual sophistication, adjusting his gloves as he engages Charlotte in this peculiar topic. He inquires if she has heard the stories, his tone laced with a playful edge that suggests he finds the concept of ghosts more amusing than terrifying. Charlotte, bespectacled and composed, stands before him, her posture rigid as she attempts to maintain a professional veneer. Leon presses the issue, leaning forward with a predatory grace, his fingers dancing near his face as he teases her about the supernatural. He gauges her reaction, his eyes narrowing with mirth as he questions if she believes in such things. Charlotte stammers, her composure cracking under his intense scrutiny. She notes internally that hearing the word ghost from the lips of the imposing Lord Leon feels incredibly jarring, a clash between his commanding authority and the childish nature of the topic. Leon, sensing her discomfort, leans in closer, his voice dropping to a theatrical whisper as he attempts to startle her. He breathes a sudden boo into the space between them, watching for a flinch. Charlotte, however, steels herself. She pushes back against his teasing, declaring that such tactics will not rattle her. She constructs a mental image of herself as a fortress, claiming to have overcome numerous trials that have granted her an ironclad mental shield. She internally dubs herself Muller the Steel, a moniker representing her impenetrable resolve against his playful torment. She refuses to give him the satisfaction of seeing her frightened, projecting an aura of stoic determination. However, Leon is not so easily deterred. He shifts tactics, moving from psychological teasing to a physical invasion of her personal space. He produces a sweet treat, holding it up with a challenge in his eyes. He commands her to open her mouth, dismantling her steel persona in an instant. Charlotte's mental defenses crumble immediately as he feeds her the confection. Her internal monologue descends into chaos, the Muller the Steel persona vanishing as she becomes overwhelmed by his charm and the sudden intimacy of the act. She squeezes her eyes shut, her face flushing a deep crimson as she accepts the treat, her heart racing. The sensation of the sweet fills her senses. She analyzes the texture as it melts on her tongue, noting the crumbling consistency and the subtle crunch of nut bits that add a delightful complexity to the flavor. Her professional mind attempts to focus on the culinary analysis to escape the embarrassment, but the pleasure of the treat is undeniable. Just as the moment peaks, a knock at the door interrupts them. A voice calls out, breaking the spell. Leon pulls back, a look of mild annoyance crossing his features at the interruption, though he whispers a promise that they will finish this later. Charlotte is left reeling, acknowledging that everything Leon brings her is always delicious, complicating her ability to resist him. The narrative shifts back in time to explain the current predicament. The scene transitions to the chaotic Chancellor's AIDE office, where the atmosphere is thick with despair. A female colleague begs to borrow Charlotte for the evening, tears streaming down her face. The workload is insurmountable, a mountain of paperwork threatening to bury the entire staff. Charlotte agrees, learning that the team has relocated to the infamous Conference Room 3 to manage the overflow. The root cause of this disaster is revealed to be a massive audit initiated by the director, Mikami, a man known for his gentle soul and capability. Flashbacks reveal the moment Mikami accepted the impossible task from Leon. In a meeting, Leon had suggested auditing the ministries due to bad data, and Mikami, ever the saint, had volunteered his own office for scrutiny as well. The staff, who adore Mikami for his kindness and his role as a buffer against the demon Chancellor, Leon, could not refuse him. Their loyalty to Saint Mikami, a devoted husband and kind boss, forces them to endure hellish overtime without complaint. Thus, the AIDE office has become a graveyard of exhausted souls, working around the clock to fulfill their beloved director's promise. Charlotte arrives at conference room 3 to find a scene of absolute devastation. Piles of documents reach toward the ceiling, creating a labyrinth of paper. The staff members are slumped over desks and boxes, their souls seemingly having left their bodies. They move with the sluggish, jerking motions of the undead, their eyes vacant and dark circles etched deep into their skin. It becomes immediately apparent to Charlotte that the ghosts, rumored to haunt this room, are actually her colleagues, transformed into zombie-like husks by sheer exhaustion. Despite the grim atmosphere, the team rallies when they see Charlotte. Stefan, the section chief known as the Lord of the AIDE office, is buried under his own mountain of work but commands the room with a tired authority. Charlotte's arrival is a godsend. Her exceptional mental math skills allow her to tear through calculations that would take others hours. She dives into the work, her fingers flying across the pages as she organizes files and corrects data. The staff looks on in awe, their spirits lifted slightly by her efficiency. Hours bleed into night. The stack of papers diminishes, but the work is far from over. One by one, the other staff members reach their limits. They depart, leaving Charlotte alone in the vast, dimly lit room to finish the final calculations. The silence of the building grows heavy, the shadows lengthening as the lamps flicker. Left to her own devices, Charlotte's mind begins to wander back to the rumors. The solitude transforms the quiet room into a chamber of horrors. She hears a creak. Her body freezes. A footstep echoes on the floorboards. Panic seizes her, the rational, the steel, vanishing entirely. She spins around, her heart hammering against her ribs, and sees a shadow looming over her. She screams, her voice echoing through the empty hall, anticipating a ghost. But the figure is solid. It is Leon. He stands there, surprised by her outburst, holding a jacket. He reveals that he had placed it over her while she dozed off, and her scream had startled him as well. The terror drains from Charlotte, replaced by a fresh wave of embarrassment. She realizes she had fallen asleep at her makeshift desk, derelict in her duty. She apologizes profusely, flustered by her lack of professionalism and the fact that the Chancellor himself has found her in such a state. Leon dismisses her apology with a wave of his hand, his expression softening. He realizes that the ghosts she feared were merely the result of the rumors he had teased her about earlier. He finds amusement in the fact that she mistook the overworked AIDE office staff for spirits, chuckling at the absurdity of the situation. He invites her to take a break, breaking the tension that hangs between them. They sit together in the quiet room, a temporary sanctuary from the demands of their stations. Leon produces a thermos of tea and a package of sweets, continuing their earlier game. He holds up a white, powdery confection and asks her to guess the ingredients. Charlotte, eager to redeem her composure, analyzes the taste. She identifies cake flour, butter, sugar, and the distinct sharp note of salt that accentuates the sweetness. She names the nuts and the powdered sugar coating. Leon confirms her analysis, identifying the treat as a snowball, a fitting name for the crumbling, melt-in-the-mouth cookie. The atmosphere shifts, becoming intimate once more. Leon urges her to close her eyes again for a final reward. Charlotte hesitates but complies, her trust in him outweighing her embarrassment. He feeds her another treat, this one larger. She bites down, the flavor exploding on her tongue. It is a financier. The act is tender, a stark contrast to the grueling work that surrounds them. Charlotte feels her heart squeeze, the steel defenses completely obliterated by his kindness and the romantic tension that crackles in the air. Leon helps her with the jacket he lent her, his scent enveloping her and making her heart race even faster. He advises her not to push herself too hard and to wrap up her work soon. He prepares to leave, his presence having chased away the lingering fear of the dark. As he walks away, he glances back, a satisfied smirk playing on his lips, enjoying the taste of the sweets and the reaction he elicited from her. Charlotte remains in the room, energized by the encounter. The fear of ghosts has vanished entirely, replaced by a determination to finish her task. She powers through the remaining work for another 2 hours, her pen moving with renewed vigor. Morning finally breaks. The first rays of sunlight pierce the curtains, illuminating the dust motes dancing in the air. The door opens and the zombies return, shuffling back into the office for another day of struggle. Stefan, who had fallen asleep on a sofa in the office, wakes up as Charlotte approaches. She hands him the key to conference room 3, signaling the completion of her task. Stefan looks wretched, his face pale and eyes sunken, a testament to his grueling schedule. Charlotte thanks him and the others, her role complete. However, as Charlotte turns to leave, the perspective shifts to Stefan. He watches her retreating figure, his expression unreadable but the air around him growing heavy. A dark, internal thought surfaces, contrasting sharply with the camaraderie of the previous scenes. He watches her with a cold, piercing gaze, muttering internally that he would never accept a woman like her. The sentiment is venomous, hinting at a deep-seated malice or prejudice that lurks beneath the surface of the overworked, collaborative office environment. The chapter concludes on this ominous note, the peaceful, daily life revealed to be a facade masking hidden resentment. Charlotte stands close to Lord Leon, her hands busy adjusting the chains on his uniform, claiming she has grown accustomed to these routine physical interactions. Leon immediately dismantles her professional facade, countering that she is lying because she blushes every single time he touches her. He feeds her a sweet treat as a reward for correctly guessing its type, marking another victory in their ongoing game. The narrative rewinds to explain Charlotte's exhaustion, revealing a day defined by grueling meetings. In the Chancellor's office, Leon radiates fury as he confronts a group of trembling officials regarding a slapdash construction plan on land they have already purchased. He interrogates them on their lack of foresight, demanding to know their intentions for the unusable plot. As the officials flounder, Charlotte interjects with a calculated solution, suggesting they utilize the land as a test site for the Agriculture Ministry's new spray agent. Leon accepts the proposal immediately, his anger cooling as he acknowledges the merit of her idea. Later, in the corridor, the dismissed officials vent their humiliation on Charlotte. They dismiss her competence as dumb luck and sneer that the Chancellor requires a more capable aide. One man spits a venomous insult at her retreating back, calling her a useless, plain ugly thing. Charlotte attempts to deflect the malice, telling herself it is pointless to care about such trash, but the words pierce her armor. The insult resonates with her past experiences at home, where people disapproved of women working, and the word ugly lodges deep in her chest, wearying her heart. Charlotte retreats to the Chancellor's office, fighting the urge to nap as 2 projects loom for the next day. Leon interrupts her internal struggle, commanding her to approach the sofa. He pulls her down, forcing her head onto his lap and covering her eyes with his hand, offering his lap as a makeshift pillow. He feeds her a meringue cookie, the sweetness dissolving on her tongue as she lies paralyzed by the sudden intimacy. As she lies there, Leon accurately deduces that the insults from the hallway wore her down. He chides her gently for crying on the job but provides his hand as a towel to hide her tears. He validates her professional worth, stating clearly that she is doing very well and that he relies on her greatly. Charlotte weeps, overwhelmed by the kindness of the demon Chancellor. While resting in his arms, a realization crystallizes within Charlotte. She loves him. But this epiphany brings immediate pain, summoning a memory of Leon's past warning. If you ever fall for someone, make sure I don't find out. She concludes that he does not desire her feelings, only her convenience and competence as an aide. She rationalizes the intimacy as a practical healing effect. He dispenses, void of romantic intent. Charlotte wakes, washes her face, and prepares to leave, claiming to feel lighter after the rest. Leon stops her departure, stating that stress should not be carried home. He leans in and kisses her cheek, positing that a strong, sudden stress can be overwritten by an even stronger event. He teases her, asking if that was enough to erase the bad memory, or if she requires more. Charlotte panics, stammering that it is more than enough. She flees the room, her heart pounding, certain that her heartbreak is now sealed even as she runs from the man she loves. The encounter in the Chancellor's aide office. Charlotte flees the room, her boots striking the floorboards with frantic urgency as she puts distance between herself and the source of her turmoil. She bursts into the hallway, the heavy door clicking shut behind her, serving as a physical barrier to the man who has just dismantled her world with a single kiss. She leans back against the wall, her legs trembling, the Muller the Steel persona entirely vaporized. Her hand flies to her cheek, fingers tracing the lingering warmth of his lips. Her heart hammers against her ribs, a chaotic rhythm that drowns out the silence of the empty corridor. Internal chaos consumes her. She slides down the wall, burying her face in her hands. The heat in her cheeks is undeniable, a physical manifestation of the feelings she has tried so desperately to suppress. She scolds herself for her reaction, acknowledging the unfairness of his tactics. He used a healing excuse to breach her defenses, and she, the fool, allowed it. The realization of her love is now a heavy weight, sealed by the physical contact she can still feel burning on her skin. She perceives this development not as a new beginning, but as the finalization of a heartbreak she believes is inevitable. She is convinced she is merely a convenience to him, a tool for work and a vessel for his stress relief, nothing more. Meanwhile, inside the office, the atmosphere shifts from charged intimacy to a thoughtful silence. Leon remains standing where she left him. He does not chase her. Instead, he watches the closed door with an enigmatic expression. He raises a hand, his fingers grazing his own lips, mirroring Charlotte's action in the hallway. The playful, teasing veneer he wore moments ago dissolves, replaced by a look of predatory satisfaction mixed with contemplation. He is fully aware of the effect he has had on her. The calculated risk of overriding her stress with a stronger event, his affection, has yielded a reaction far more potent than he anticipated. He moves to the window, gazing out at the darkening sky. His internal thoughts are not those of a man seeking simple healing. He acknowledges that her resistance is crumbling. The steel wall she erects is thinning, and he has found the cracks. He muses on her retreat, not as a rejection, but as a strategic withdrawal of a fortress under siege. He knows he has shaken her, and the knowledge brings a faint, possessive smile to his face. The scene transitions to Charlotte's attempts to regain composure. She forces herself to stand, her knees still weak. She moves to a restroom, the harsh light of the mirror reflecting a woman she barely recognizes, flushed, wide-eyed, and vulnerable. She splashes cold water on her face, the shock of the temperature serving to ground her spiraling thoughts. She stares at her reflection, water dripping from her chin, and begins the arduous process of rebuilding her mental armor. She adjusts her glasses, the simple motion serving as a ritual to summon Muller the Steel back from the void. She tells herself that tomorrow is a new day, that she can return to being the efficient, emotionless aide he requires. However, the cracks are visible. As she walks away, the steel mask is set, but her eyes betray the turmoil beneath. She exits the building, stepping into the cool night air, the solitude offering no true escape from the memory of his scent and his touch. Back in the office, Leon turns away from the window. He glances at the stack of finished documents Charlotte left behind, perfect, precise, and completed in record time despite her emotional state. He runs a hand through his hair, his demeanor shifting back to the demon chancellor. He prepares to leave as well, but the air in the room has changed irrevocably. The game of sweets guessing and healing hugs has evolved into something far more dangerous. He has tasted her feelings, and he has no intention of letting her retreat behind her walls again. The chapter closes on his resolve, the hunter patiently waiting for the next opportunity to dismantle the steel and claim the woman beneath.